Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Mr. KB. It's been 2 years, 3 years. So this video is it's a little bit late as far as the topic I want to discuss. It's been a long time. I never really had time or made time to kind of keep this channel up. And for anybody who watches this video, I had a channel going for a little bit. It kind of stopped, whatever the case may be. But the topic I want to talk about today is the 800 plus people who got laid off at Blizzard. Now, before it goes, oh, it's just another guy ranting. It's not a rant. I want to give you guys a different perspective on what occurred at Blizzard. It's not the correct perspective. It's just my perspective. And now anybody asking, well, what makes you qualified to make this assumption or summaries? All right, so I've been doing QA for multiple video game industries for 13 years now. A lot of big names. I'll drop them when I start telling stories. And you talk to people as you make these connections, as you work through. Yes, I'm just a QA guy. Yes, I know we're the grunts. Yes, I know QA is the lowest form of life when it comes to game development. Yes, I know blah 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 blah. Whatever public opinion may be, that is not necessarily the case. I'm not a person to waste my time, and if I thought at any point this was a waste of my time, I would not spend 13 years actually doing what I do for a living and loving most of it. Like any other job, there are covets. So let's get the story going, and then I'll see how I can address certain things in a different perspective. But before I get that started, oh look, another one. I want to call out all the supposed journalists out there that broke this story Friday night, Saturday morning. And the YouTube people who actually picked up on the story and then spread it out even more. I'm calling you guys out for all the stuff that you guys talk about. How can Activision Blizzard do this? How can Blizzard treat this? How could you do that to 800 people? Actually, no. How could you do that to a couple thousand people? If, like the plan already went through. There was going to be firings. We get that. The only people who should know who's getting fired or who's staying or who's not are the people who are actually getting fired. Not the thousands and thousands of clicks and views and everything else that you guys did. The way this was handled, whether or not you want to blame Activision for leaking it and blah, 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 blah. Look, I don't care. You picked it up claiming you had internal sources, all of you. I'm not going to spread out no names because I don't want to give you guys any more clicks. But you know who you are, who ran the story on YouTube, on social media, video game, journalists, websites, blah, 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 whatever. Professionals, my ass. How could you pick up a story and then break it over a weekend? 800 people lost their jobs. But you scared thousands just to be the first ones to break this story. I personally knew people who were having anxiety attacks because they weren't sure what was going on, what was going to happen. They go into the weekend thinking, oh, cool, look, I'll come back on Monday. I'm still going to have a job. To hear this. And then the firings didn't even take place until Tuesday. Or was it Wednesday? I think it was Tuesday. So it was 3 days of stressing people out. And before you guys even think, oh, well, the people had the right to know. Yes, the people who were getting fired had the right to know. Not the entire world. Not the entire world. The people getting fired had the right to know what was in their future. For all you websites, all you YouTubers, all you bloggers out there that put this shit out there and made these people worry about their jobs and made them worry about their co-workers and their bosses and people who they actually cared about at Blizzard, so you can break a story and get clickbaits and get more advertising money, you guys are a piece of shit. Straight out, all of you guys are pieces of shit. You guys played equal parts in hurting the people that lost their jobs and their co-workers. You guys stacked on the pain. You guys stacked on the pressure, stacked on the anxiety, stacked on everything. Just to fucking break a story. Just so you could be first. That's some fucking shame right there. That's some bullshit right there. So all of you guys, you go to, well, I had insiders tell me that, people were gonna get fired, and no, it doesn't fucking matter. I used to work there. I know people there. Even if I had heard that this was going on, never ever would you ever see my Twitter feed, my Instagram, my YouTube video. None of it would have picked up. Because none of you understand what it's like to work in this industry, knowing that this could happen. You reach the dream. You work for Blizzard. You think, damn, I'm going to be here for life. For the ones who want to be there. And then this happens. And all of you are just as responsible as Activision Blizzard is and causing everybody pain. Just as responsible, if not more so. Because you publicize that shit. You publicize their firing. You publicize their feeling of worthlessness to the world. And for what? For fucking clicks and money. Fuck you guys. All of you. Oh, all right, cool. Damn, it's been a while since I rented on video. All right, so, whoo, and I mean every single fucking word of what I just said too. So going on, I started 13 years ago, right? About a year after my son was born. My son will soon be 14. I started working at Sony. At the time, it was Sony Pictures Digital. We worked on mobile games. We had small developers on site. We had some developers that were remote. But the QA team, for the most part, was centralized there. It was in Culver City. This was before Android, iOS. Like any of the big kind of OSs that support games now. But mainly iOS and Android. This was like it's like 3 or 4 years before like those OSs became what they were. Just little on the flip phones. Pricing was different, whatever the case may be. So I get my first job and it's Sony. Like, dude, I'm a big Sony fanboy. Like, I love Sony stuff. Saying the PlayStation, the headphones, like the TVs. Like I'm a big Sony fan. So, straight out, I got my first gig at Sony. I didn't care it was Sony's Pictures Digital testing mobile games. I was hype, homie. I was working at Sony. We go there 6 months. Business happens. You know what I'm saying? Like this, whether we like to actually, how can we say this? Even though we take enjoyment out of what this industry is, video games and have fun with it, streaming now and all the other stuff, it's still a business. People are looking ways to cut the overhead. They're looking for ways to maximize their profits. They're looking for ways to make more money. That's just the way it is. Very, 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 very few companies actually care that much about making money. And I will say that Blizzard was one of the ones that cared the least about making a lot of money. Like, yes, granted, you make these things to make money. That is the end goal. But Blizzard was one of creating a culture first. And I think it worked for a very, very long time. But let me come back. So I'm working at Sony. 6 months in, we were told that we will be merging with another branch of Sony down in San Diego, SOE actually. We merge, and like not necessarily understanding the business per se, but kind of reading about it, because I've been reading about this industry for forever. Like I love this industry. This is my industry. This is my passion. This is like one of the loves of my life. If I could have a mistress in life, it would probably be the video game industry, But yeah, 6 months in, start talking to the homies, and we kind of knew we were effed. It was a thing where if they decided to keep on a QA a QA team there after the merger, because SOE themselves had a QA team, and if they were to keep projects at that studio in Culver City, that we would either have to move to day shift because we were night shifters, or we would be fired. We would be let go. That was just a reality of what occurred. So another 6 months passed by. I'm reaching my 1 year there, and we get the news. Hey guys, sorry, SOE LA / here is pretty much closing. They fired everybody. Like, it wasn't no 800 people, but they fired everybody. I think the studio at the time was running about 60 deep, and I believe they fired all but like 8 people, and even that, I think, was probably like an oversight. It might have been like as little as like 4 people, to be honest, of what they kept at that studio. And that was really just for redundancy, to kind of help along with the testing until the processes that they were working on, like finished and fleshed out. But that was my first job. I spent 1 year at Sony, and then I got fired. I mean, we got closed down. I didn't get fired. A month goes by, and now I have experience, and now I have Sony experience. Like Sony carried name. I don't know if it still does as much, but Sony carried like big weight back in those days. This was around the time of the PlayStation 3, like the beginning of the PlayStation 3, because I wound up getting a PlayStation while working at Sony. So yeah, now it carries weight. So now I get a follow-up interview about a month later at Activision, and I get hired. Boom. Oh my God, you worked at Sony. We're going to offer you the job. We don't really care. All right, cool. This was Activision. The title that I was put on was the original release of Modern Warfare 1, 2007. So I started there summer of 2007, worked through 2007. And being in QA, like most of the times you have temp positions. You go there for the contract. You go there for a project, which was kind of the good thing about working at Sony, was that Sony had so many projects that you're kind of on an endless contract up until they made you full-time, if you ever got full-time. But there was always work for you to have a job there if you wanted the job. Activision was a little bit different, and most big game studios at the time, and even now, if some of them still exist here, are different. You get hired for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. If you're really good, or if you have some sort of history there, they'll call you in like maybe like up to like a year and a half early and be like, hey, we're doing this pre-pro, we're trying to get ahead of it. It's rare when it happens, but it's not unheard of to hear people be hired about a year before a game releases when they have something to be tested. But 9 months to 6 months is usually when you start getting contacted to come in QA for these big projects. So I got hired July of 2007, after the 4th of July weekend. And I tested it, and it was a good project. I made a lot of good friends. Some of them I still talk to today. Like there was one dude in particular who I still talk to, and we've been friends for 11 years now. So I mean, that's kind of how this kind of goes. You get into this industry to make money, to test cool games, and also to kind of meet some cool ass people that kind of just get you. You know what I mean? Like growing up for me in the hood, like people didn't get me. I was too old to play video games at like 13. Like it was like, why don't you play basketball? Why don't you play football? It's like, I don't want to play that shit. I want to play video games. It wasn't until like I met my best, my bestest friend, my BFF for life, that I could find happiness like being young and playing video games. It wasn't until I met him. And but yeah, but like going, like the workplace is always, it's like a cool workplace. End of October, they submit gold. IW submits Modern Warfare 1 to go gold. They pass after like a week. About a day later, we have a all hands meeting that involves everybody, including QA. QA is never invited to anything. So when you get invited to stuff, you're like, oh shit, we're gonna get fired. And we have this all hands meeting. We don't even like necessarily get told that we're gonna get fired. We're just told that the project is over. That we have other projects that are still waiting for the gold submission that we can help with that. And for the most part, yeah, that's kind of how it worked out. Modern Warfare 1 was supposed to be like the big hit everybody anticipated after E3, that it was gonna be like the killer, the killer game for the holiday season. So the priority was set there first, and once they submitted and passed gold, there were other titles in the Activision dungeons, what we called it, that still needed some QA help, on the DS, on the Wii, on PC. So like a lot of us got redistributed to those teams, but only for like about a week or two. And after that, you start seeing little by little. It's like, hey, can we talk to you, and you? And they get fired. And during that job, I was working with my cousin, and I was working with the friend that I met some other homies that were cool. And only me and one of my other homies that I met on the job actually got to keep our jobs. We got moved up to what they call the multiplayer lab, where you would test patching and just kind of the overall connectivity of online games, mainly for the PC. So it was like Call of Duty, Guitar Hero, older games that they were selling copies to, but on foreign markets, such as like EU, Europe, France, or just kind of like lower end markets where particular games got a cult following and we needed to support it because there was some money coming in. And since the game didn't cost anything, it leveled out where you can make like an extra, like 20, 30 G's just by supporting like an old legacy game that somehow got a cult following somewhere. That's just kind of how it went. So, like I worked through there. After everybody got fired from there, I started sending out applications, because that's kind of how you go. You go through the cycle of working, sending out applications, hoping you get picked up quick, so you're not on EDD all that long. EDD, for people out of California, I'm not sure where this extends to, is unemployment benefits. That was kind of usually the cycle that QA testers kind of did this. It was like it was a QA cycle. You would get hired for 6 to 9 months, get fired, and you get fired without no severance or none of that. Get fired, you're on EDD for at least 3 months, if not 6 months, and then you get hired again, and you kind of go through this cycle of firing, working. And I got lucky. I got I kept my job after Modern Warfare 1, the original release. And then I got hired at Treyarch. I became the PS3 production test lead for World at War for the PS3. This was my first and so far my only lead job, which kind of sucked because I really did like being a lead. I really do like being in a leadership position. And I worked there for about 1.5 years, and I busted my butt, busted my ass, but ambition kind of took me over a little bit. The last 6 months that I was there, I was working pre-production for Black Ops 1, and basically you were just like testing modules. It wasn't even like a full game or a full stage. It was like, hey, we have this new slide tech. Do you want to test it and see where you can find bugs? Hey, we have this new like rocket launcher tech. Hey, we have this new, like it was like little components, little modules here. And like it sounds cool, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not bad, but the thing is, out of a profession like that I loved, I kind of wanted a little bit more. So, I voluntarily leave. I didn't quit. I got another job working with my cousin again at Capcom Mobile. And this was around the time when iOS was starting to kind of pick up and be the mobile OS to put games on, and just barely by a little bit. By the time I got to Capcom, they had put on Street Fighter 4 on the iPhone. No, not even the iPhone. It was on the iPod Touch. We had a version of it running the iPod Touch, but that was kind of like the last era of the flip mobile phones, and that's where I worked for about 9 months with my cousin. I was on a contract there. Didn't really pan out the way I wanted to, so, my contract ended, and I guess for that one, you could say that I was fired. But I like to say that my contract was not extended, because I worked out my contract. You know what I'm saying? My contract was for 9 months. They didn't pick it up. Technically didn't get fired, but you know what I'm saying? I guess you can call it a firing. Seeing as I stayed in touch with a lot of my peoples at Treyarch, I just started hitting them up like, hey, like I know it's time for the new Black Ops to come out. I like to go back and kind of finish what I started. and just kind of be there for a bit. And it was like, all right, cool. They did the paperwork, did all the stuff. It took about like 2-3 months to kind of get everything settled in. But like Treyarch, for me personally, like, didn't ever show me anything but respect. And maybe my bar, my level for respect at the time was a little bit lower, just mainly because, like, as a QA guy or a QA in general, when I started out, you hear like straight out, like, you're pretty much like, you're not even like the solid trash in the garbage can. You're like the film that gets left behind on your garbage receptacle after you like throw away a lot of trash. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you are. You're kind of just there. That's the way it seems to perceive. But like, I never felt that from Treyarch. Not me personally. Yes, we worked extremely long hours. We worked, like 13-14 hours a day during crunch. Like, there was one time I worked a 22.5-hour shift for a demo, and the first time I was at Treyarch, I actually gained like over 80 pounds. Like, I tipped the scales at about 300 and something after I left Treyarch the first time. I gave a lot to that company. But in return, they kind of they gave me a push, they gave me an inspiration, they gave me respect. Like, maybe the respect wasn't throughout the whole company. That's just any other company, how it's gonna be. But like, the people that I had to deal with, for the most part, with the exception of like maybe one or two, it's always been a respectful conversation. There's always been like, hey, we like the way you work, and they've always shown me respect there. So we go, I go back and I work on Black Ops 1. And Black Ops 1 takes off. Like, I believe it broke at the time the 24-hour record for any type of entertainment media. I believe it sold something along the lines of like $647 million worth of product within the first 24 hours. And I think the record at the time was about 390 to 400 million for Harry Potter. So we broke that. And we go through it. We're there to test patches and hot fixes and to test zombie maps and multiplayer to make sure that everybody can play. Everything is looking cool for the holidays. And then around right before Christmas time, like, the news breaks. Oh, Black Ops 1 sells $1 billion, before Christmas. Oh my God, it's the blockbuster of all video games. And I think at that time it had broke the record set by like Grand Theft Auto in that amount of time. But it was a huge game. And I believe this was the first time that Activision had broken the $1 billion revenue barrier for the first time in their history. I believe they had done the actual revenue on a product of $1 billion before with the original Modern Warfare 1, but that actual like revenue stream was throughout the course of the life of Modern Warfare 1. So like, it didn't really have as strong as a launch as Black Ops 1, but it was consistently, it was super strong the whole way through. So you get you get some of the money in 2011, you got some of the money in 2012, and like, overall it was kind of cool for the company. But Black Ops was the one that made like $1 billion in revenue, like, in the span of like 5 weeks or however long it was out there, maybe like 6 at tops. But yeah, like in a 6-week span, it was like, oh damn, they made $1 billion. So this was the first time Activision did that. So just like this time, like I said, there are companies that like to cut the overhead. And 7 years ago, actually, almost to the exact date, Activision did the same thing that they did now. You come out and you say, oh my, we broke our $1 billion revenue. We've had the best year ever. It's record setting. And we're going to close down 5 studios and let go of about like 500 people. Or I think it might have been like 700 people at the time. But yeah, they closed down 5 studios and fired 700 people. I was one of them, unfortunately. At my level, for that particular junction and that position, I was making about $1 more about $1 more than the actual lead, and I wasn't a lead at the time. I was just a regular QA guy, and I was probably making about $2 or $3 more than your average QA guy, and it's $3 an hour more. So I got that one. I got let go. You know what I'm saying? I walked out. That was the last time I worked for Treyarch. I just didn't have any more of those projects in me, but like I got nothing but respect for that company and my time there. Like I honestly loved it. And if somehow I could find my way back there in the future, not sure when in the future, for doing something there, who knows? We'll see. I'd probably love to go back, but we'll see, because they work like crazy there, man. Like those guys are dedicated. Not that I'm not. It's just the level of dedication that it would take at this juncture in my life. Probably more than I don't want to give. But not out of the question. So I get fired from there. Then it goes through a whole cycle of working different jobs here and there. None of them really pan out too much. I believe from that point it was a cool 2.5 years before I really got any type of like solid like work again. It was like 2-week contract here, 1.5-month contract here, 3 months here, maybe 4 months here. After like 2.5 years of doing this, like the last one that didn't pan out for me, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done. I'm through this. Fuck this. I'm out. Like, I'm out of the video game industry. I'm gonna go work at a warehouse or like Costco or something. Like somewhere where I can have some stability and actually like plan a life, because this sucked. Never in my wildest dreams, never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought I would be working at Blizzard. That was like the mecca if you were a QA guy. The mecca. Because at that time, before I believe Riot came out and started doing the same thing, at that time, Blizzard was the only company in Southern California hiring full-time QA. I mean like full-time, full 40 hours, benefits, profit sharing bonuses, like full-time. They were the only ones doing it. So when I worked at Treyarch, we had like 2 guys leave, go like, oh, I got a job at Blizzard for WoW QA. And everybody was super hyped, like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, do I like apparently, and this kind of was common practice back then. He goes, apparently I was in a guild with like some dude that was like the lead of something at WoW, and he hit me up and he offered me a job, so I took it. And like so that was the mecca, because like everybody questioned, like, why would you go if it's just gonna be another contract? Like, it's super far from where you're at now. Like, why would you go? And they're like, no, it's full time. Like, oh damn, full time. And this is like 20 no, not even, yeah, it's 2007, because it was for World at War where this happened. So it was like 2008 when this happened. So you're talking about 2008. You're talking about 10 years ago that Blizzard was hiring full-time people. The worst you could do at Blizzard at that time was you would get a 6-month contract, and if you were anywhere near decent at your job, they would evaluate you and give you a full-time position. If you sucked, bye. So that was 2008. I never thought I would amount to anything to even achieve even being interviewed there. So after my last project, I was like, I'm done with the QA industry. I get messaged on LinkedIn by one of the recruiters, and it's like, hey, you have a vast array of knowledge. We're looking to have, to open up a new team, but it's not game related. Would you be willing to look? I was like, are you like, I looked at it and I thought I was being played with. I'm like, I didn't think it was serious. I was like, why would you reach out to me? But sure enough, I hit dude back, and he was like, no, this is completely legit. We have a new team that's non-game related. That's not a game team, not game related, because it is game related. It's not on a game team, so you wouldn't be working for WoW, you wouldn't be working for StarCraft, you wouldn't be working on any of those teams. But we want to get a QA. Would you be interested? Yes. Yes. So they contacted me November of 2012. I don't hear anything as far as like a follow-up request to anything until about the end of January. So like about 2 months. After I submit my application, submit what they asked for, I had to wait until about the middle of February to even be set up for a phone interview, which would be like a conference call, you know, like you and like 4 other people. You know, I go through it. I feel like I fucking rocked it. You know, I was like, oh, damn, I'm feeling myself on this one. Woo! And then like another like month goes by. So now we're like in the middle of March. Yeah, middle of March. And I hear, hey, you know, sorry, you know, one of the recruiter who was working with you, he left to take another position somewhere else. So we're kind of scrambling here. We're sorry about all this. Would you be open to an actual job interview? I was, yes, it's Blizzard. You know, yes. So that gets scheduled for the end of March. Yeah, the end of March. You know, and I go there and damn, man, I feel like I bombed it. You know, like I play it and like out of all the things that I'm not really confident about in this world, I'm very confident about my ability to do my job. May call it a certain cockiness, you know what I'm saying? Some people might call it swagger. But I'm very confident in my ability to do my job. But I felt like I walked in there and I couldn't. You know, a lot of the questions were very WoW based, and I didn't play WoW. I actually to this day don't necessarily like WoW or MMOs in general. It's just not my thing. You know, like my game was StarCraft, but like my core people, the people who are interviewing me, seem to be very WoW centric. And it's one of the things of having like a young company like that, and I'll get to that probably a little bit later. So like I felt like I just dropped it. But you know, I'm going through the interview, and I see my hiring manager at the time, and I don't want to drop no names because I don't know how comfortable they would be with me sharing their name, even if it's good or bad. You know, like I don't want them to think like I'm involving them or like name dropping. So like I won't say any names throughout this whole thing. You know, but I see one of the hiring managers, and it seems like he, like me and him vibe out. You know what I'm saying? Like I talk to him and he talks to me, and it felt like, and I still talk to this guy. You know, like now we're kind of like, he's a friend. He will always be a friend. He will always be a brother. But you know, like life happens, and now he's in the other side of the country. So you know, like at this point we're Facebook communicado friends. But you know, like if the opportunity ever came to just go pop him a visit and go hug the dude, and I would go over there, hug the dude, and go buy him lunch. You know what I'm saying? Because I really do love that guy that much. But anyways, you know, like we click out, and I see him write something on his notepad, and I'm like, damn, I got fired. You know, I didn't even get the damn job. Like I just like no. So we go through the whole thing. It's about an hour and a half. And then at the end of everything, he looks me straight in the eye. He goes, hey, do you want to have a chat? What do you mean? Like, yeah, do you have time? You know, like at that point, my wife had dropped me off for the interview because we have one car and it was in Irvine. We were living in Long Beach at the time. And I'm like, damn, like I can't say no. So, you know, I type him up like, hey, he wants to talk to me. I don't know how long it's going to be, but like he wants to talk to me and the interview's already over, but I can't say no. She's like, I understand, sweetie. You know, handle. Cool. So we got there and talk, and he goes, look, man, ask me anything you want. Right now, I'm going to tell you, outside of the business aspect of it, ask me anything you want, and I'll give you the most honest answer I can give you right now. And I told him, like, hey, how did I do? You know, like, he goes, you did very well. I am going to fight very hard for you so you can be a part of my team. And at that moment, ooh, like I even get chills like talking about that shit now. Like no lie, like hearing that, you know, so like I might even get teary-eyed during this video because that's what this company means to me. That's what this industry means to me. And but like even talking about it now, like that was vindication. You know what I mean? Like somebody at Blizzard vindicated my abilities, vindicated everything that I worked for, vindicated all the missed birthdays, all the missed performances, all the missed words, like everything that I gave up having a son to be a part of this industry was vindicated. You know what I mean? And not only did they vindicate me, they were gonna hire me at that point, which was kind of like not a entry level, but it was gonna be like a kind of like a mid-level position, kind of transitioning. Because at the time that I got hired, we had at least 4 base levels for QA, and they hired me at a 2, and I was one of the first to be hired at a QA 2, based on everything that I had, you know, done prior and everything like that. So like seeing all that stuff, like hearing all of that, man, like it was crazy. It was super, super crazy. Like it was nuts. You know, so I was feeling really good. We leave, and after we talk, he said everything that Blizzard offers, which is like full time, the benefits. Every once in a while, they would have a trip. Like they just came back from like a Vegas trip to like celebrate. At the time, I believe it was Heart of the Swarm launch, and I got like 3 Vegas trips out of working at Blizzard, and man, like good times. So yeah, you know, like we go to this conversation and we talk, and then I hear nothing. I hear nothing for like about a month, and I was like, man, I thought this guy said he had my back. I thought he said he was gonna like push me. I was like, man, I didn't get this job. And then I get hit up about May 3rd, May 5th. I was actually at the laundromat doing laundry with my wife and my son. And you know, like we go to like the laundromat, you get quarters. This one had like a little arcade machine. Dude, I'm a arcade rat. So you know, like we put in, you know, we take out quarters for the machines, and I put one in to damn man, I can't remember the Neo Geo soccer game that was on there. I think it's like World Soccer Championship or whatever the case may be. It's an old school, you know, like Neo Geo soccer game. I put a quarter in there, pop it in. I'm playing. My phone goes off. I look. 714 number. I was like, man, ignore. And I keep playing. It rings again. I'm like, man, what? I'm like, jeez. And then I hang up after the first ring. And then as soon as I click, I realize, oh, that's an OC area code. Oh damn, no. And then, you know, like my wife was like, who's calling you? I'm like, I don't know, it's OC. Like, you don't think it's. I'm like, man, but I just put a quarter in here. Like, I just put a quarter in here. Like, go answer the phone. I was like, oh, okay. So I leave my quarter there. You know, I lose, whatever. I call the number back. I'm like, yo, hi, this is, I can't remember who the name was. It was a female HR lady. Hi, you know, like, is this Moises? Yeah. Oh, so, you know, sorry for the late delay. I know you've been contacted. You were contacted like way in the end of November, and it's been like a long process. But we want to offer you the position full time. You know, you'll be making, I believe at the time it was $15.50 an hour. You'll be making $15.50 an hour full time. After the year, you'll qualify for, you know, promotions and bonuses and blah 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 blah. Are you interested? Yes. Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. That was in my head. I didn't really say it like that. I didn't want to scare her. You know, I kind of kept it somewhat timid and professional. Of course, yes, thank you so much. You know, but in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I got it, yeah. You know, I'm like, I'm doing backflips and I'm doing somersaults, like, you know, like stuff I can't do in real life, like in the physical world, I was doing in my mind. And so yeah, that was it. But then the covet was, oh well, we know it's November 5th, or sorry, we know that it's May 5th or whatever. You know, it was early May. We can't hire you until, well, you cannot start until May 28th. Is this gonna be okay? I was like, what? You're gonna leave me on unemployment for another 3 weeks? Like, that's fine with me. But yeah, thank you so much. You're like, I'll be there May 28th. Blah 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 blah. All right, cool. It's like, awesome. Thank you so much. You know, sorry it took so long, but would you say it was worth it? I was like, absolutely. You know, I was like, yes, it was. You know, all the screaming was in my mind. So then I start, and that was a dream. That was a dream, man. That was the absolute dream. Thanks to Blizzard, I was able to finally move out of renting a room at my parents' house. With at that point, he was a 8-year-old and a wife. We were renting a room because we couldn't afford anything else. Like we were. I was on contract. I was on loan to whatever company wanted to hire me, and there was no stability there. So to try to move out was difficult. But like Blizzard offered me that. They offered me, sustainability. They offered me benefits. They offered me everything that it took for me to take the next step in my life. And we're talking about 6 years ago. So I was just getting to the cusp of being 30, or I can actually move out. And like, yeah, you guys see clutter back here. It's my kid's room. He lives in it. And we moved out. We've been out ever since. But it all started with Blizzard. Now, is everything perfect at Blizzard? No, everything is not. Like the first 6 months to a year, it was cool because Blizzard, as a company, as at that point a partner with Activision. And the reason why I say partner and how that differed is, so when I started at Blizzard, there was a partnership going there. Blizzard was kind of like the developer, Activision was the publisher. But both companies were actually owned by Vivendi in France. They were the majority stakeholder. And unlike the stock market here or the markets here, Vivendi wasn't trying to make a 10%, 12% year over year increase in profits and revenue. Like, that wasn't their plan. Their plan was like, okay, make us some money and we'll be all right. So this partnership between Blizzard and Activision happened while I was at World at War at Treyarch. They announced this whole publication developer partnership. But that was kind of the extent of it. Like the only thing that kind of changed there was that Blizzard was still Blizzard, Activision was still Activision. But now they allowed us to kind of get like discounted Blizzard games, and we got discounted subscriptions to like World of Warcraft. That's part of being like the family benefit or whatever the case may be. Like it was we qualified for friends and family, but it wasn't like straight out like free. But that was kind of how it went. So, all this time passed by. I finally get hired at Blizzard in 2013. And that's still the relationship between Activision and Blizzard is Blizzard, Activision is Activision. But in America, Activision is very good at making money. You may hate maybe what they did, and I understand that, because I think it's a shitty thing to do to people, especially after you come out and bump your chest about how much money you just made. But the culture here in the United States for companies like that is you just make money. You try to max out every single fucking penny that you can while you can. I don't think in the last 10 years there's been a company better at doing that than Activision. I don't think that there's been. Straight up. That is the one thing that they reign supreme at, is they know how to make money. When they restructured back in 2012, when they closed down the 5 studios, laid off 700 people, that was all restructuring. After the same thing, after they had just set records, after they have set records in the entertainment industry, after they did all this stuff, they go ahead and fire 700 and close 5 studios, because that means that for 2012 going to 2013 fiscal year, even if their numbers held the same, their investment in developers, people, and everything else was going to be lower. So how do you make that extra 1 or 2 percentage? You cut it off the top, or in this case, you cut it off the bottom. However you want to look at it. But none of that really mattered back then because they were only touching Activision studios. The Blizzard was unaffected by the first round that I was there for at Treyarch for. Blizzard was unaffected by any of that. And then we fast forward, and then I think 2014. I want to say 2014. Vivendi just doesn't want to invest anymore. Vivendi is looking for a way out. So they sold, I believe, all but like 10% of their shares to Activision, meaning that Activision was now the majority stakeholder in its own interest and also Blizzard's interest for the partnership. What the contract and how the contract actually played out, I don't know. I don't know any wording towards it. I haven't talked to anybody that told me, hey, this is specifically how this contract went. I'm just giving you what I picked up while I was there. So while Activision and Blizzard were under Vivendi, they were working separately, kind of. Once Activision made that push to get a lot of their stake back, somehow that included them having like corporate ownership over Blizzard. How? I am not sure. Again, just stuff that I'm picking up on. After this first move, after they now own a majority of Activision Blizzard, you start seeing changes. Blizzard used to have this whole thing where you can get promoted anytime you want, or anytime that you were deemed worthy of a promotion. Didn't matter the position. If somebody thought you had been rocking ass for a long time, you didn't have to wait until March. You didn't have to wait until August. You didn't have to wait until these fiscal cycles to get your upcomings. You know what I'm saying? It was like, hey, you've been kicking ass. Boom, promoted. We'll give you a raise right now. Boom, because you've been kicking so much ass. That was Blizzard's culture. It wasn't a mature culture because I think people probably took advantage of it from what I was, led to believe and what I've seen. I believe there was a lot of mispromotions or misraises, but at the end of the day, Blizzard was still making money thanks to WoW, thanks to whatever. So, there was very little care there as far as like where this money is going. If a group of people thought that one person deserved that raise, then that person got that raise. That was just how Blizzard worked. At the end, how much does it cost? It didn't really seem to ever be a thought. It's like, how can we make sure that people are always striving to be the best? Instead of like, if you want to take it to like pro athletes, outside of their contract year, you know what I mean? Like, how do you always make people want to push for more when it's not a fixed promotion cycle? And that's what Blizzard kind of came up with, was like, hey, we'll promote you, we'll give you a raise, we'll do whatever we can to make sure that your hard work does not go unnoticed for a very, very long time. So once Activision got the majority stuff, that changed. Activision started putting their foot down on this, what they considered extravagant spending. Because I don't really think Blizzard ever had like a cap on people they can promote whenever they decide they want to promote. They always kind of do it like on the same day, on the same cycle. But it was usually like on a per month basis. You'd always see like the emails like, hey, congratulations to so-and-so who's been promoted to this, blah, 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 blah. Usually the number of people who got promoted was probably about between 10 and 12 people. So you span that out over the course of 12 months. We're looking at 144 people a year. So Activision didn't like that. So then Activision said, you know what? No, we can't do this no more. Can't. Now you can only promote people in March and in August. Then there was a cap. There was a cap of money, budget. What that final actual financial thing was, I have no idea whatsoever. Or 40 people. That was it. And if people want to go, well, how do you reach that number before promoting 40 people? Well, if you promote a bunch of QA1 people to QA2, you promote 40 of them, the cost is not that high. But if you go to promote a test lead to, like a senior test lead or something that's a little bit higher, that's a bit more expensive to give. You take money somewhere else, and like 2 people don't get promoted. That's kind of how it was. It kind of started becoming like kind of cutthroat because you didn't know who to trust, you didn't know who to talk. And to me, that's the culture that's set by Activision. Like it is what it is. Here's 2 knives, you're in a pit, fight. That's kind of what I picked up. And again, all this is just purely opinion based. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, what I feel happened there. So you start seeing that change, and people don't like it. I don't like it, but Blizzard is still trying to be Blizzard. Blizzard's still offering classes to all of their employees, QA included. I actually got my ISTQB foundation level certification free of charge. They paid for the material, they paid for the test, they paid, they even allotted me time out of my work schedule so I can get the certificate. I mean, the certificate hasn't really played much, but I can say that I achieved it, and I achieved it not paying anything out of pocket. We're talking about a whole week off of work to go study this stuff at my rate, plus the materials, plus the actual exam, which I believe at the time was about $330 to take the exam. So you're talking about an investment of well over $1,000 just to get me the certification. But that was a Blizzard initiative. That was how Blizzard was like, hey, like, maybe we can't pay you as much as you think you want, or maybe we can, but we will try to make you better for your next job. They were about building up their people. This is what I noticed in the QA level. I'm not sure how it goes above, but this is what I noticed at the QA level. And that was always a talk, because the one thing that the QA would always bring up is, hey, like, we don't get no money, and it wasn't completely inaccurate. Like, it was tough to get, even with the promotions. Just because they say they want to promote every month, or they strive, like, it doesn't always work that way. And it mainly just because sometimes leadership was inexperienced enough to kind of go fight for the people. They were more interested in taking care of themselves than they were taking care of the people they were managing. And again, not everybody. And again, it's just kind of how it was. But Blizzard always, took care of their people in any way that they could. If it wasn't through financial means, because they just didn't have the money to give you, an extra $2 or $3 more an hour, they would make sure that you would be skillful enough to kind of go on to your next endeavor. And that part they didn't make any secret of, especially in the QA realm. That part they didn't make any secret of. It was like, look, guys, just because you work here doesn't mean you can afford to live around here. Here being Irvine, and that's not the direct quote. But we offer you this, we offer you that. We include you guys as part of the bonuses. You guys are included in our company trips. And you go ask anybody that's worked anywhere else. And that was probably another problem with the QA there as well. A lot of them got hired during the wild days, and a lot of them, that was their first job. They didn't work anywhere else. For me, I was like, all right, I completely understand this. Another 6 months to a year passed by, and Activision buys all the shares back. All of the shares back from Vivendi. So now Activision is the largest independent publisher in America, possibly even the world at this point, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, they become basically the owners of their own Black Heart. And at that point, once Activision gained its independence from Vivendi, and they had really nobody else to ask questions to, that's when you saw them just put a foothold on everything. And I mean everything. And when I mean everything, I mean even down to the benefits of what makes somebody like me want to work there. Like I took a significant pay cut to work at Blizzard because they offered certain benefits. A lot of them stayed intact, but the biggest one to me, and maybe this was my immaturity at the time, or just the fact that like I never thought it, maybe it was just the hype kind of taking over my judgment. but one of them was a steep discount on BlizzCon tickets, at least for the first one. You know, like all employees get a BlizzCon ticket because we are asked to work one day and then we get to enjoy one day. And it's a fair trade. It's more than a fair trade. And plus, dude, BlizzCon is so hype when you work it, man. Having fans come up to you and be like, hey, you know, what do you do? I was like, oh, you know, I did this. I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome. And like geeking out with them and just talking to them. Like, man, BlizzCon for everyone that I worked was always an amazing experience. I never once hated working at BlizzCon. Never once. And to this day, I look back and, man, I loved every second of every BlizzCon I've ever worked on. And I believe I worked on 5 of them total. 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, 5 total. I worked at 5 BlizzCons, and I loved every second of it. It was an amazing experience. But like the second ticket we would get for, like, you know, a wife or a son, like I think the first time we paid $120, which was a discount at the time. And then we got 2 additional ones at full price. Cool. Wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad because then they gave us a stipend of 500 BlizzCon credits, or sorry, battle credits, or whatever the hell the prepaid currency is that they use. They would give us a stipend, and the employees were actually able to use that stipend of $500 to buy BlizzCon tickets. So I literally paid. For all the times I was there, I never once paid out of pocket for a BlizzCon ticket. I got to take my wife and my son every year that I worked there for free. And I was even able to take my nephew, took my my son's friends. I was able to take my brother one time. The year that Metallica played, it was me, my brother, and my son watching that concert. And, like, I had a good time. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are memories that can never be taken away. So yeah, you know, like I have these good memories, but Activision in the background, following years, they raised the price of the tickets. So now the discounted ticket was still discounted, but the end price was a little bit higher, and it was high enough to the point where on this $500 stipend, I could no longer afford to take everybody. Had it not been for me not spending or not having some reserve battle bucks, there'd be no way where I was able to take my kids' friends. No way whatsoever. But I had some saved over, did it. That was the last year I was there. But leading up to it, so yeah, we didn't get the discount tickets anymore. We were given still 2 tickets at full price, but now we didn't have the money to actually cover it through our stipend. And then this previous year, from what I heard, was they actually took away a whole ticket in general. So you got your ticket, you got a discounted ticket, and then you got 1 ticket. And that extra ticket that most people were awarded was considered a waste because that was a ticket that we could sell to the public who would come and spend money and blah 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 blah. Business, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the way Activision looked at it. Like, why are we giving our employees these tickets? You know what I'm saying? Like, we just give it to the public, we can sell it to the public. And that was what they did. And that was always their MO. They were always trying to find ways to have the employees not want all of the tickets. And then since that didn't work, because people would just find ways to kind of buy all of them for themselves, you know, so they can take their family and their friends, Activision was like, nope, we're just going to take away that 3rd ticket. You guys are asked that. You get 1. You get 1 discounted. You get 1 full price. And then you get yours. You get 3. That's it. The 4th one for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It goes somewhere else. It goes to the public. Promotions or whatnot, like I said, they were stifled. They were stopped. You know, there was a hard cap, and Activision wasn't willing to actually make the situation of everybody better. The last year I was there, they said they would roll over the 10% holiday bonus into everybody's actual payroll, which in principle sounds cool, but ends up being better or worse depending on how you look at it. You know, because like when I got my bonuses, I was like, all right, cool. Like it's December. This is Christmas money. This is a little bit of vacation money, and I can get ahead of my bills. You know, once you start putting that money into like my everyday, it becomes part of my everyday spending. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I could potentially save it, but like I literally was struggling. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I mean to a small degree, I still kind of do. But like at that point, I was struggling to make ends meet all the time with my son's increased spending for his school and extracurriculars, and just him growing up. Man, kids are expensive. You know, but towards the end, I was looking for a way out just because I saw the writing on the wall. You know, like when the company starts taking away things for no reason, you know, for the reason of a couple $1,000 extra, you know, shit's gonna go sour. Like, you know, for a fact, shit's gonna go sour. So, you know, like I was able to, thankfully, through an old buddy of mine's, get a new spot, get a new position. So I left Blizzard voluntarily, January of 2018. I still have people who I know that work there. I do know the people. I know a handful of people, like 2 handfuls of people that I personally know and that I've heard were affected by the layoffs. There could be many more that I passed in conversation, or even, you know, thought, man, this dude's really cool, or this girl's really cool. And I, you know, like, but we never really kept touch because we were like Blizzard buddies. You know what I'm saying? We would talk, we were there because we had a good time, and then we wouldn't talk after that, or we didn't see each other. Like, hey, you know, kind of like old friends. Like, hey, how you been? Blah, blah, blah. Cool, man. Yeah. And we just bounced. But you know, so I left 2018, just seeing the writing on the wall, seeing that Activision was kind of taking over, and then me myself being privy to some talk, and then kind of seeing the talk kind of play out. I felt that the Blizzard that I got hired, the Blizzard that I had loved, the Blizzard that gave me so many opportunities, that allowed me to meet some of the most amazing people in the world, was being swallowed up by the monster. That's how I felt. You know what I'm saying? But the one thing I want to tell people is, don't judge Blizzard by the monster. I hear people talking about, oh, we have to, you know, like, stop supporting Overwatch, and we still have to stop supporting Diablo, and this new mobile game is going to wreck the franchise, and we got to just stop and put it into this and show them who's boss. That works in no particular way whatsoever. They are an American company. The monster is allowed to exist because in America, we have allowed this to take place. We have made it okay to allow big companies to just make as much money as possible, because somewhere in the back of the majority of the American psyche, we dream to be that guy. We dream to be the $1 billion maker. We dream, and fuck if I'm gonna pay taxes when I become a fucking billionaire. You know, fuck these other people and the regulations they want to put on me and my chances of becoming a millionaire. That is the general consensus. That is why this is allowed to happen, because we continuously vote for people who put special interests in front of people. So what do you get in return? You get fucking monsters. You can't vote for people who sponsor monsters, who support monsters, and then expect not to be fed to the monster. It doesn't work in any conceivable way. It doesn't. And if you were to boycott, that was the word I was looking for. If you were to boycott Blizzard now, boycott Diablo, boycott StarCraft, boycott Overwatch, probably being the biggest one, boycott WoW, boycott, all you're going to do is you're going to ensure that instead of 800 people being out of a job, a couple thousand people are going to be out of a job. That's all you're doing. Believe me, I've wrestled with these type of demons when talking about Amazon and the way I feel about Amazon. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to support Amazon anymore. I personally do not, because of the stories that you hear about how they treat the warehouse workers, how they just treat a lot of the lower end workers, and being a QA guy, that's kind of how I see myself, as like one of the lower end workers, and I am. But I see, and like I worked in the warehouse before I got into QA, so I kind of feel it from both. Was like, damn, man, like that sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you think about it, like the warehouse workers, you go, oh, but yeah, this low level takes no skill. It's not necessarily the amount of skill that it takes to move one box from the tramway to the fucking pallet. But do you want to do that? Do you know that your package does not get to you if you don't have that guy there? Why is that person not worthy of at least making $40K a year? Why is that person relegated to making high 20s to low 30s? You can't afford to live on that shit here in California. You can't. I make more than that, and it's still a fucking struggle. California is an expensive state. You know what I mean? So like, that's how I look at it. It's not that it takes the skills, but you also have to take into account like what goes into living somewhere. We live in California. It's one of the most expensive states in all of the United States, if possibly, like, I'm gonna say like top 20 in the world, to just kind of like carve out a life for yourself. But when you boycott Blizzard, if you boycott Overwatch, you're not boycotting Activision. You're not doing anything, because at the end of the day, like I said, Activision is good at making money. If everybody right now decided, hey, they should stop playing Blizzard games, that will show them. That ain't gonna show them shit. Because what's gonna happen is they're gonna close down everybody in Irvine. They're gonna close down the esports department. They're gonna close down all other holdings that they have everywhere else. You know, with the exception of maybe Keen, because they're in Ireland and it's a mobile game, they can make money off of that for regardless of, you know, however that plays out. But all you're going to do is make sure that 2,000 people are out of jobs or out of work. The people at the end, the people who control the monster, the people who are the monsters, the people who suck souls, they're going to walk away with money in their pocket. They're going to walk away with millions upon millions of dollars. And for people who go, oh, no, that's not going to happen because blah, blah. No, it's going to happen all the time. If you live in the United States, what have you seen lately that makes you think anything different? That makes you think that somehow your voice is going to hurt the top 1% of any company out there? What have you seen that shows you anything like that? If you boycott Blizzard, you're going to boycott 2,000 people's work, 2,000 people's passion, 2,000 people's ability to make a living. That's all you're going to do. Everybody in the top, everybody making money will still make money. Activision could close Blizzard, Activision could close their doors, and everybody who holds a power position at that company will walk away with millions. You saw it happen with Toys R Us. You saw it happen with Sears. You've seen it happen with Circuit City. You've seen it happen in America with so many companies closing in the last like 10 years. It happens all the time. The top is never hurt by anything. They walk away with millions. You know who gets hurt? People like me, people like you. People who go somewhere and go, you know what? I'm going to put my best foot forward today. I'm going to go and be the fucking best. I'm going to go out there and just make something of myself. We're the people hurt by this. You're not hurting anybody on the top. Name any big company that you want to boycott that does the similar stuff. Nobody in the top will ever be hurt by any of this. It was Microsoft in the late 90s to early 2000s. Oh, Microsoft is the evil corporation, blah, 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 blah. At that time, Windows OS was coming up. They were becoming the de facto OS to be on anything for any particular reason. If we decided to boycott Microsoft back then, Bill Gates still walks away with a shit ton of money. Fast forward, what happens? Toys R Us, we didn't even know they were really in trouble. They're in financial trouble. Somehow, their financial trouble leads their top 1% to walk away with billions in golden parachute buyouts. And it's allowed to happen. So you're never going to hurt those people. You're never going to hurt the top. You're never going to hurt the monsters. All you're going to do is you're going to hurt the people who are just like you. You're going to hurt the people who are fed to the monsters. So please stop that whole train of thinking of like, oh, we got to stop supporting them. No, because you're going to hurt the people who are there, who are super passionate, who care about other people, who gave up a lot to take that opportunity at Blizzard. That's who you're going to hurt. And it's not worth it at the end. If you enjoy Blizzard games, play them. Passionate people give up a lot to create that experience for you. Believe me, I know. I'm somewhat jaded by my experience at Blizzard. Like sometimes I wish I never would have worked there, to be honest. Because Blizzard in my mind was like a fucking unicorn. You know what I mean? And then once you kind of see the unicorn, get to see it run around and gallop, it's not as magical anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, but I would never ask for anything bad to happen to that company and people remaining there. Never in a million years will I ever ask for that. The people at that company, for the most part, are some of the best people I've ever encountered in my life. And I mean, this video is already like an hour long or something like that. But I want to give you guys examples of why I would never want anything to happen to Blizzard. Now, this doesn't pan over and say that I support what happened, because I absolutely do not condone, endorse, or support anything that happened to those people at Blizzard and other Activision studios that were affected by the layoffs. I don't. If anything, I wish that every time a company had to restructure, like they would have to pay just way more in severance, especially after you go out and say, hey, we broke records. Like if you want to fire people, like I would make it so like you would have to give them like a year's pay. You know what I mean? Like you rebuild for 2019 by paying all these people you don't want them there for 2020. That's cool. Or you keep them on and you keep making your little 7-8%, which, out of $1 billion or 700 and whatever the fuck the number was. Like that's what I would do. Like I know it wasn't kind of conclusive, but that's what I would do. I would punish companies making a profit doing this type of thing. In ways of fines, or if you want to do, you make the severance package so huge that it's just better to keep those people there so people can keep it working. That's what I would do. So, but that's kind of a different situation altogether. As far as my time at Blizzard, so, I mentioned when I got hired, the guy who hired me kind of took me aside and said, hey, blah, 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 blah. We offer this, we offer that. And I got the job. Again, vindication, all the hard work, all the time and effort that I put into this. That was my vindication moment was that. We fast forward. I'm not gonna say I had the best time trying to climb up the ladder at Blizzard, because I did not, and to be honest, that was probably the thing that made me want to get out even more, was that there was a certain game that needed to be played there that I was just not willing to play there. And again, it's like any other job, any other job. You know what I mean? Like there's still, no matter how great a place is, there's always going to be that corporate element to the job that you're never going to agree with as a worker. It's going to happen. There is no perfect company. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, from the outside looking in, if I were to say what is the most perfect company to work at because of all the good things you hear and everything, like, it wouldn't even be a video game company. It'd be like Costco. You know, you hear about Costco taking a loss on this, Costco taking a loss on that, Costco looking out for their employees, Costco doing this, Costco doing that. Like, it sounds like amazing to work at Costco. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, from the outside looking in, it sounds like Costco is a place I should have fucking aimed to work at 13, 14 years ago. Who knows how much money I could be making now working at fucking Costco? You know, but again, like, if you work in Costco, you might think, it's not that great. It's cool. Like, you know, blah, blah, blah this and blah, blah, blah that. You know, but again, that's just kind of how I see it. But that was kind of like the feeling. So, like, to be honest, you know, like, maybe 2 years in, I was already looking for a way out. You know, like, yes, it was by far the best place I've ever worked. It was probably the funnest place I ever worked. And the amount of people that I met there that I could just geek out with. And a lot of them, you know, like, I call my brothers. And a lot of them are family. You know what I'm saying? And we'll get to why I say that. Like, Blizzard was like tops, man. But like, for me professionally, I felt like 2 years in was enough for me. Like, I needed to take my experience at Blizzard, take that name onto my resume, and see what I can make out of myself. It took a while, but it finally happened, thankfully. You know, and it's worked out for the best, probably. I don't know. You know, it's kind of hard to say, considering that I've been away for the company for a year. But so I got hired. You know, I wanted to get out. It took me 2 years, but within the 2 years, there was a lot of darkness that I experienced, both professionally and personally. And the people there just took care of me. You know, like, they were so concerned about my well-being. You know, like, yeah, you know, like, none of that was going to help me get more money. None of that was going to help me pay bills that I couldn't pay. None of that was, but knowing that other people there understood and cared enough, it's like the best fucking feeling in the world. You know what I mean? Like, literally, like, outside of my team at Treyarch. Yeah, outside of my team at Treyarch, there's never been a more kindred spirit experience I have had working anywhere else. It was literally my time as a PS3 test lead, and then most of my time at Blizzard, where I felt like this kindredness with the people around me. You know, so like, I went through a lot of it, and a lot of those guys I still talk to. You know, like on Discord, on, like, we text. You know, like, we don't get together all that often because life is hectic on both their ends and my ends. But, you know, like, we try to talk and conversate however we can, as much as we can, about anything. We still play Heroes to this day. I don't do it as much lately with them, but, you know, like, I'll try to get in there for a couple games. So towards the tail end of my time at Blizzard, I'm just having a horrible time. Like, just a horrible time. I thought I was going to get a position that I interviewed for. I had let one of my engineers know, hey, you know, like, it sounds like I'm gonna get this position. It sounds like it's gonna be good. And I really like this guy. Like, I like him a lot. Like, you know, like, he's super quiet, but he's super funny. But he's old school, man. Like, he just knows his shit. You know what I'm saying? He's super honest. And, like, that dude's like a breath of fresh air, man. And to this day, I have nothing but respect for him. Like, nothing but respect for him. And, you know, like, he's hearing me talk to my buddy about this. And he goes, why do you want to leave? And I let him know, like, hey, you know, it's just not working out, this, and that. They're offering, you know, they might be offering me this, but, you know. And plus, you know, like, it's one of these things where, like, I feel like I have to leave. And he's like, no, you don't do any of that. You have so-and-so call me. You have him, you know, like, message me. Let me talk to so-and-so. So-and-so being pretty high up the chain, not only in the company, but as far as the department. You know what I'm saying? You let me talk to him. You throw him my way before you make any decisions. I'm like, nah, man. Like, I don't want you to do that. You know, like, you don't have to. You go and do that. You send that email right now. You CC me on that email so I know that you sent it. Have him talk to me. You know, like, I balled out. You know, I balled out, man. Like, you can probably see it. I'm teary at it a little bit. I balled the fuck out. Like, I was just there to support this guy as part of QA. I really didn't think he thought that much of me. Like, I knew we got along together. I knew we could drink together. I knew, like, at worst case scenario, he considered me a little buddy. You know, just somebody who's there to tag along and kind of do this thing. But no. You know, he straight out said, you know, like, I'm going to put myself out there for you. And I balled the fuck out, man. I didn't know, you know. I went back inside to grab me another beer because I believe we had game time or some sort of festival that day or some sort of celebration. You know, I already had like 2 or 3 in me. So I went to get me another beer and I started fucking crying. I was just like, wow. Never ever in my life that I think I would experience something like that, where a engineer, a very well-known and respected engineer, would give 2 shits about some QA guy's decision to fucking leave the company. Never, ever did I ever think that would fucking happen, and it happened. And even to the point where, like, he doesn't do the going away things for coworkers, and he showed up to mine. You know what I mean? So, like, man. And then we had a new tech lead come in and take over, and he was the same way. Like, I let him know, like, hey, man, like, this is not working out. Like, I don't know what to do. You know, like, I'm not asking you to put yourself out there, but is there any way you can, you can, you know, like, go talk? And this was a different technical guy. This was our tech lead, and he told me the same thing. You know, he was like, hey, who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to talk to make sure that, you know, you get to at least be happy while at work? You know, I don't have a lot of silver bullets, but if all I have is one, I'm going to use it on you and, you know, like, and make sure that you're happy. Damn. What? Word? These guys are literally 8, 9, 10 corporate steps ahead of me. You know what I mean? I'm on the step where they wiped their shoes if they stepped on shit walking in. And both of them were just waiting to just be like, nah, this is going to happen. You know, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take care of you. You're part of our team. We're going to... Man. You know, to the best of my knowledge, they're both still at Blizzard. And if you boycott Blizzard, you would be hurting these 2 people. 2 people who didn't have to give a single flying fuck about me, and did. That these are the type of people that are there all throughout. People just as caring, just as passionate, just as supportive. That's who you're going to hurt if you boycott Blizzard. People like that. You know, and not to show that this is just like a worker man thing. And maybe it's gonna be like a humble brag, but you know, like I had reached a breaking point after my last BlizzCon in 2017. Like I had just reached like a point. Never ever did I think that an email I sent to a pretty high up in the company would get a response. You know, it'd be like, oh, who's this from? I don't know him. Delete, spam, junk, block, whatever the fuck the case may be. You know, I sent it right after BlizzCon, or maybe even right before BlizzCon. Around that time of 2017. I send this email. BlizzCon, no, you know what? It was before BlizzCon. BlizzCon happened, so I don't get a response back. I had to work OT because I volunteered. I believe it was like Diablo season rolling over or something like that. So I happened to be in the office later than usual. And I get Skype called. And I'm like looking, and I'm like, I see the name. I'm like, what? Like, nah, you know, 7:30. Like, this dude is like, this is probably just like a fucking, you know, like he saw my email and he like looked me up on Skype and see like what my title was, and you know, he accidentally pressed call. That's what I thought. Nah, you know, straight out. And like, if we want to put this into perspective, like, this guy was, I believe, and still is, if hopefully he's still there. I haven't reached out because I kind of don't know how to reach out to people who might have been fired who I still talk to. You know, he probably top 10 people, no less than top 20, like as far as like corporate stature. You know, so he reached out and he goes, hey, you know, I know we've spoken before. And you know, I had passed some pleasantries and some concerns and even some anger towards him in the past. You know, we've had our off and ons. And he goes, hey, so I'm reading through your email. Sorry it took so long to get back to you. Are you okay? What do you mean? Are you okay? Like, this email sounds really intense. It sounds like you're going through some shit right now. Are you okay? I broke down again. You know, like that's kind of been like the basic thing. Is like, you know, like it's been those moments, man. Like when you feel you're all alone, and then like something like this pops off from some pretty high people up to some very well respected people, and they give a fuck about you, and they care. And you know, we go through the conversation. I think I talked to him for like maybe like 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and he was like, all right, look, this is what I want to do. It's like, it's late, you know, I still got stuff to do. I'm pretty sure you have stuff to do, which is why you're still here. Let's set up a meeting. We'll talk, you know, like just back and forth. We'll see what we can do to kind of help your situation, to help you out, make you feel better, make you feel more comfortable. Are you cool with that? I'm like, yeah, you know, excellent, cool. Next day, I see a meeting invite. It's supposed to be for like an hour, and it's like for a couple of days after this initial conversation. The conversation lasts close to 4 hours. I don't know what company other people have worked at, because I've never worked at one, where a person in the top 20 standings of a company has 4 hours out of his day to give a shit about you. I never expected it. I've worked at warehouses where the owner of the warehouse won't even fucking acknowledge that you fucking exist. This dude held a position, or holds a position, hopefully still holds a position of power at one of the top video game developers in the world. And he somehow had 4 hours to talk about me, a QA guy. So if you thought that the two tech engineers, one of them including the lead, was something, and I still think it's something. Like, but like I said, those guys were like 10 steps above me as far as like corporate. Like, where the fuck is this guy in the whole? I don't even think he's in the same building. You know what I'm saying? I'm like the guy with the "will work for food" sign on like the off ramp that he takes coming to work. Not in Irvine, but um, just in general, just so we can paint that scope. Or at least that's the way I perceived it. But he was able to care. Like and this wasn't the only like prolonged conversation we had in the month and a half prior to me leaving there. Like, we had about like 2 or 3 other ones. None of them helped me decide to stay there, because there was just checks and balances and requirements that I needed in order for me to feel comfortable there. But for the time that I would have remaining there, and he knew I was looking for a way out, for the time I had remaining, he made sure that he introduced me to the right people who I also spoke with to help me feel like I was living up to what I expected to be at Blizzard, to the point where I put in a request for a business laptop to learn Golang. QA has never really gone for that, or at least people have not approached that angle. My request got approved, and it was $1,400 worth of equipment that they approved for my personal use to learn Golang. They approved it about the end of November, beginning of December, to the point where I was already in the process of leaving. But for the 2 or 3 weeks, I was there studying some stuff. Unfortunately, never picked it up. Opportunity is not there currently for that, because like I said, it was $1,400 worth of stuff. $1,400 that I don't got to spend on personal stuff outside of my son. But it's that level of thought. It's that level of compassion and caring and honesty, and that to me was a breath of fresh air, man. And again, I would never wish anything bad on anybody who works at Blizzard ever in a million years. There was some people who I just couldn't fucking stand. You know what I'm saying? But that's more personal than professional. For them, I don't give a fuck where they work. I don't give a fuck that they work there, as long as they don't work with me. I don't give a shit. And you're gonna find that in any job. You know what I'm saying? But the company as a whole, I've already seen Toys R Us close down. I've already seen Sears close down. I've seen Circuit City close down. I've seen so many stores close down that were a big part of my childhood, a big part of my upbringing, close down. And little by little, you feel it. I don't know what the fuck I would feel like if somehow, some way, Blizzard Entertainment was no more. I know we kind of took a big hit with Sega, but Sega still kind of exists. Not in the capacity they used to, but they still kind of exist. All the other companies that kind of went by the wayside, they didn't mean that much to me. THQ, whatever. If EA were to go away, I don't really care. As long as I got Nintendo, Sony, and Blizzard, I think I'll be okay. But after everything, man, just hearing everything, and cause it had to be rough, man. It had to be rough to be let go from that place. Because this is the type, because it's not just I had a cool job and now I have to go look for another one. It's not that. You know what I'm saying? It's not the fact that, you could claim that you worked at Blizzard. Man, that shit never did anything for me. I still don't have a fucking house. I don't make more money because I claimed I worked at Blizzard. That's not how that works. But I was able to carve out a life for myself thanks to Blizzard. In no way, shape, or form will I ever, ever, ever want something horrible to happen to a company that gave me the ability to provide a life? You know what I mean? It's one thing to just pay bills. You know what I mean? But the opportunities that my son has been able to participate in and accept because Blizzard gave me a job and I was able to finally get out of a room, and I was finally able to kind of have this ability to support these opportunities for my son. You know, that's what they did for me. Like, yes, like I wish I could still be working there, and I wish I could still be working there with the people that I was working with. A lot of them like disbanded, like a lot of them left because they just couldn't take it, same as me. You know, like my wildest, most selfish fucking dream would be that, one, I could make a fairly decent living. Like, look, I'm not expecting 6 figures doing QA. I kind of have an estimate of what I'm worth, and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? But it would be like carving out that type of life, that type of living, but then being able to do with everybody that I met at Blizzard, and then being able to bring people that I really, really like from other companies to work at Blizzard. And then we just fucking kick ass there and be like the most fucking kick ass group of QA people ever, that we just fucking rock. You know what I mean? Like that is my selfish want, that I could still possibly work there and be making a good living, and I can do it with the people that I care the most about in this world. That's not possible. And I understand that that's not possible. But I can't hold any ill will towards them. Like, yes, I know, like, the end of the day, it says Activision Blizzard. It says, you know, that Activision Blizzard fired 800 plus employees. Activision Blizzard did this. Activision Blizzard announced. The monster has one name, but it has 2 hearts. You know, unfortunately, the heart that wants to eat consumes the feelings of the heart that kind of just wants to be. You know, and that's a really tough part about all of this, man. It's stuff like that, man. And before anybody like thinks, oh, you know, what happened? And I guess the one name that I will drop in this, and it's because I one, he's not with the company anymore, and 2, I think he's way above giving a shit. But let me kind of paint this. When I say that Blizzard had a culture that was vastly different from any corporation, it starts at the very top. Now, before I say this at the very top, there are some people that were at the top or are at the top that do have this ego. You know what I'm saying? I work for Blizzard. I helped create Blizzard, and I helped create this, and you know, like there's going to be that, bro. That's fine. When I thought of Blizzard, and when I think of Blizzard that I worked at and was there for, and when I think of the culture and what sets that culture, I always think of Mike Morhaime. He's a lot shorter than I thought somebody of his stature would be. And I know, like, physical size doesn't have anything to do with the actual ability to make money. But growing up and hearing Mike's name and seeing him and seeing, like, how he was and everything, like, I always thought he'd be, like, 10 feet tall. You know, realistically, I think he'd probably be, like, 6'5", 6'6", you know what I'm saying? Just just like a big, tall dude, But no, the dude's probably like 5'6", 5'7". So my first experience with Morheim, well, Mike Morheim, Mr. Morheim. Sorry, let me respect the man. My first, he said I can call him Mike. I'll call him Mike. Blizzard sets up yearly employee events, or did. I don't know if they still do. Actually, you know what they did this year? They took everybody to Disneyland before they fired them. But Blizzard set up yearly events, to show support for their employees, and to give employees a nice day to kind of go out and see each other and see people outside of work and in Central Hub. We've done medieval times that were all Blizzard themes. So yeah, if you've been to medieval times, that's cool. Have you ever seen Rainer or Stukov during a medieval time show? I think not. Guess who has? Me and everybody else who worked at Blizzard at the time. Well, Blizzard Irvine, who decided to go at the time. They had a thing called Summerfest, where basically they rent out the OC Fairgrounds and they just have food and activities for the family, and you could have a good time. So we go, and I'm there with my son and my wife. I'm not sure if this is the year that I took my nieces with me, but I don't really care. It's not that I don't care. It's just the memory doesn't have them. But anyways, I'm in line with my son and my wife for toss across or some game. I don't know. And I'm talking to my son, and I'm just chilling, and I notice some guy in front of me. Older gentleman. I don't really think much of it. Talking to my son, somebody comes and speaks to this gentleman, and he's like, "Oh, hi." And then all I hear is, "Oh my God, Mr. Morheim, I'm so happy. Thank you so much for throwing this for us, or helping organize. Thank you so much for everything. It's been amazing." And he looks at the person and says, "Oh no, you're very welcome. Thank you for choosing Blizzard to be where you want to work." And like seeing his interaction and seeing this man right in front of my face, I'm just like, oh my God, it's Mike Morheim. I'm freaking the fuck out. I don't know what to say to this guy. So he's done talking to whomever it was that came over, because I really don't remember the other person either. And I go, "You're Mike Morheim." And he goes, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, holy fuck. And I shake the man's hand and I go, "It is an honor to meet you." He goes, "Don't worry about it." And I go, "No, sir, you honestly don't." And then I get my son and I go, "Hey, this is Mike Morheim, buddy. This is, the CEO. He's the reason why we get to geek out on StarCraft 2, was because that's his passion. Like, he loves StarCraft." I'm like, Mr. Morheim, like, call me Mike. I'm like, "Mike, man, we love StarCraft 2. Like, we heard it was a struggle to get it out, but man, we love it so much. And, like, everybody says, you gotta thank Mike Morheim. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because that's been like our bonding game. Like, me and my son, like, we bonded over this." And he was like, "Oh, thank you so much. That does mean a lot. Like, it means a lot that we were able to get something out there that still creates this." And I go, "Yeah, you have no idea." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to Mike Morheim." And I'm like freaking out. I freaked out so much that I forgot to introduce him to my wife, which, looking back, kind of sucks. But I was geeking out and I didn't know what to do. So, we talked about StarCraft and other things, and I had told him, like, "Hey, thank you so much for setting up a company culture where I can come here and work and not worry about losing my job after 6 months." And he goes, what do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a QA guy, and it's different out there, like, how it is. We work 6 months, 9 months out of the year, then we get fired for 3, and like, that's kind of like the cycle." And like, I didn't have to worry about this, and I told him, "Thank you so much for creating something like that for us, not just me, but like any other QA person that was there, like, thank you for creating that." The most humblest man ever. And he was like, no. He goes, you know, I'm so happy that you found that here. He goes, where did you work prior to this? You know, I started laying out the companies, you know, Sony and Treyarch, even Activision at the time. You know, blah 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 blah. He goes, oh wow, you have been, you know, like a journeyman. I'm like, yeah, I've been a lot of places, because this just doesn't happen. You don't get to be full-time QA at a lot of places. And he goes, no. He's like, I'm so happy that we were able to do that for you and everybody else. We're so happy that you don't have to go out there and worry about your job every 6 months, every 9 months. We're so happy that we don't. And he was just so genuine about that feeling of creating this culture there. You know what I mean? Yes, I know everybody's value is different. I'm not going to claim and be like, oh, my QA skills are that relevant of a tech engineer and or of a cloud developer or of a WoW developer. Like, no. I am simply a support system for said people, and I think I'm really fucking good at it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like the crutch that rich people buy when they break a leg or something, because they don't want to deal with that fucking flimsy ass crutch to get at the hospital. That's what I am. Or at least that's the way I like to picture myself. As a very luxurious crutch. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you can do with the flimsy one, but what are you really getting with the flimsy one that I can't do better and make you feel better while getting better? I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? I'm the fancy crutch. I'm the nice crutch. You know what I'm saying? Nice memory foam padding on the armpit thing. But anyways. You know, and I probably spent 10 minutes talking to this man. And then I shook his hand one more time, and I thanked him again. And, you know, like at this point, you would think once he's done talking to the commoners, that he would just be on his way. He would bounce, be on his way, and that's it. Or try to get in front of the line because he is Mike Morhaime, the CEO of Blizzard, and he would just get to the front of the line, you know, play his fucking game and bounce. No. He once again, you know, thanked me for the words and you know, and said you're welcome for everything else, and that he was glad that we enjoyed StarCraft. And then I think we were in line for like another 10 minutes before he took his turn, and then did his thing, and he played his game, and then he looked back. He was like, "Hey, have a good night, and you know, see you around." And he's not gonna remember my name. He's not gonna remember anything, and that's, you know, like, he has so many people walking up to him where it would be unreasonable of me to think that he would remember me. But the fact that he took time out of his day with his family to just talk to me and talk to the people there, and that wasn't the only time that he did it. There was a Vegas trip where he did the exact same thing. He was literally with everybody at this Vegas trip that we went to at the club, and people could just come up to him and say, you know, thank you, Mr. Morhaime, or just like, hi, how are you doing, Mike? It's been a while. And, you know, even though he didn't remember you or anything, he would always be so nice and just be like, okay, you know, this is what we're here for. We're here for you guys. We're here for, you know, for you being a part of us. And he was that, though. He, like, yes, he was a CEO, he was a president, but he was still like a part of us, and you felt that genuinely deep inside the man's soul. You felt that shit. You just felt it. And that's what Blizzard was for the longest time. And now it's not that anymore, because money speaks. Money doesn't care about souls. Money doesn't care about hearts. Money doesn't care about life. Money just cares about more money. And that's kind of the downward spiral I see out of everything. But having said that, having having that feeling of Blizzard not being the Blizzard that I loved, not being the Blizzard that I started working for, not being the Blizzard that I aspired to kind of be a part of for the rest of my professional life. I still will not wish any type of ill will towards that company. I am, when it comes to the situation, more optimistic than I feel I should be. I don't think the Blizzard that I knew, the Blizzard that I loved, the Blizzard that I worked for will ever exist again. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I still somehow want that to be the case. I'm not sure what the contract is between Blizzard and Activision. I'm not sure if it's similar to a contract that, Activision had with Bungie. We all know that Bungie left that partnership. I'm not sure if that's possible for Blizzard. I don't believe that it is, because I believe if it were possible, I believe it would have happened before Mike Morhaime stepped down from his position at Blizzard. So I don't think that the Blizzard that I know and love will ever return or come back. But I look at that place and I look at the people who are remaining there, and I can't in good conscience say, hey, boycott them, because this is just unthinkable. This is unspeakable. It happens all the time. And unfortunately, business is business. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't improve the situation for the 800 plus who lost their job. It still sucks. It still sucks. But to sit there behind a computer screen and judge the company as a whole, the culture as a whole, and say that you are willing to hurt 2,000 more people in order to justify being angry for 800 people seems very counterintuitive. So I ask you, as a fellow gamer, as a fellow person who works in this industry, if you enjoy their products, if you enjoy Blizzard products, if you enjoy Overwatch, if you enjoy Hearthstone, if you enjoy WoW, if you enjoy StarCraft, if you enjoy Diablo, if you're going to enjoy Diablo Immortals when it comes out on phone, you have a phone, right? Enjoy them. Enjoy them. Yes, I understand. You're feeding the monster. You're feeding the beast. You're making it so it looks like these things are justifiable in the end. But unfortunately, that is the situation in which we sit in. And it doesn't go just for the company. It goes nationwide. It goes statewide. It goes government-wide. It goes, the problem is not Activision. The problem is that Activision exists in a world, in a governmental state where that is acceptable, where there is no long-term punishment for the top 1% taking advantage of the bottom 99. That is the inherent problem, but it is not just localized to Blizzard. It's not just localized to Activision. That this happens with every other company. I mentioned 3 in this video. You know what I'm saying? And there's probably a lot more that I'm forgetting now, but the ones that kind of especially Toys R Us. It's a toy store. Everybody who worked at Toys R Us was pretty much boned out of anything they could have got, while the top walked away with millions. How is that fair? But that is allowed to exist, and it has nothing to do with Toys R Us. It has everything to do with what we do, what we vote for, what we believe to be in the best interest of this country. That's what it all boils down to. yes, I understand that everybody wants to improve their situation. I'm in that same boat. I am doing whatever I can to improve my situation, my professional situation. I will do whatever it takes to improve my professional situation. But in no way, shape, or form will I ever, 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 ever endorse a system and a process in which we attack each other's because we don't want to be compared to somebody else. And what I mean by that is, I'm a QA guy. What I make right now is irrelevant. It's nice. In states around this country, the United States of America, there are talks of a $15 an hour minimum wage, possibly even as high as $20. I'm all for it. I am all for it. But you go on social media, and that's not the majority of the noise being made. All you hear is, well, why should a burger flipper be paid as much as the person out of college? Hold up. If you're going to college and you're coming out making $20 an hour, nigga, you just got ripped off. You just got ripped off. Because you spent 60 to earn 40. And 60 is being generous. You know what I'm saying? These are payments you're going to be making for a large chunk of your life, and you're out here just to make $20 an hour. Like, look, I make more than $20 an hour. I'm practically a high school dropout. I'm just being honest. So when I hear people at McDonald's want to make $15 an hour, when I hear people at so-and-so want to make $20 an hour, I'm cool with that. I have no problem with a burger flipper or a trash man or a dishwasher making presumably as much as me or as close to it as I do. Because it's varying skills. Do you want to do that job? Do you want to go somewhere and be yelled at and cussed out because their burger came out cold, or be yelled at or cussed out because they just feel like cussing somebody out and they feel like you're the person that needs to be cussed out because you're just some low-level employee at a McDonald's or a fast food joint somewhere? Like, no. Never, ever, ever, ever. But that is the culture that we breed here. Everybody is told to admire the top 1% because they represent the American dream. And what that ends up doing is you turn the bottom 99% against each other. So as we're here disrespecting and destroying ourselves, we allow the top 1% to just roam free and justify the shitty way they treat a lot of us. Think about that. You think that you're going to be the next $1 billion person and you don't want to deal with any of this shit when you make your $1 billion. I hate to fucking burst your bubble, but if you're in your fucking 40s and it hasn't happened yet and you're nowhere fucking close, it's not gonna fucking happen. Stop letting your dreams, your fantasies dictate how other people will be fucking treated. Stop going, well, when I become a billionaire, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to be paying for medical. I don't want to. No. That's the opposite of how this needs to be working. If somehow in this state, in this country, if somehow you have the ability to take care of people, you take care of people. I'm not saying give everything that you have to take care of them, But you take care of people. You don't sit on a pile of money and just hoard it. For what? When you die, what's going to happen to you? You cannot take it with you. The boats, the cars, the stacks of cash, the stocks, the bonds, the fur coats and the cocaine that you snort. It doesn't matter. If you buy 10 kilos and you only snort one and then die, guess what? Those 9 kilos you can't take with you. That yacht will still be tied up at the dock. Probably sold at auction to cover some shit. Or just sold in general for money. All this shit doesn't mean anything. Why do you need so much of it? Why do you fantasize to have so much of it? For your own personal... If I could make $1 billion, it's not going to happen. But if somehow I can be in control of $1 billion, like, I'm not gonna fucking lie, man, I would be spending a lot of it. A lot. And maybe on some dumbass shit. Lamborghinis, cars. You know what I'm saying? Like a special edition PlayStation. Like, you know, like I'd be geeking out on this money. You know, have a nice house. You know, buy some nice cars, buy some nice motorcycles, you know, like start streaming, not caring. Like, but at the same time, I would take some of that money and see where I can invest it to help other people. If I do start streaming, if I do start a business, how can I make it so like the people that work for me are taken care of? So people that work for me only want to work for me and don't need a second job, don't need a third job to just make their ends meet. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that I want to take care of people so they can be making 6 figures off of me while they're doing like the most basic thing. No, that's not what I want. But what I want to provide is to provide what Blizzard provided me. An opportunity and a chance to better yourself. That is what I would do. That is what Blizzard did. A company that could hire contract QA people and be part of the machine decided to be different. And they were different. And they provided me with the opportunity to carve out a life. They gave me they didn't give me a head start. They gave me the opportunity. I got an opportunity to carve out a life for myself thanks to Blizzard. Because as I stated in the beginning, they made money. They knew how to make things that make money, but it wasn't the most important thing to them. Now, does that mean that everybody on the top was out there shelling out millions and millions? No. That does not mean that. But what it does mean is that for me, what they were able to provide me at $15.50 an hour at a full-time position was the ability to take care of myself, take care of my family. They took care of me. Yes, Mike Morhaime, Frank Pierce, all those guys on the very, very top still made their millions, still got their money. They created something fantastic. They created something marvelous and magnificent. They deserve every single cent that they have in their pockets and their bank accounts and their assets. They busted their ass to create that, and I will not condemn them for doing that. But at the same time, they were able to create something where somebody like me can get an opportunity to be something that I never thought I could be in this life. But that is not what the population is concerned about. The government and special interests will have you believe that that is a false feeling for you to have. That you should not want that. That you should just want for yourself. Be selfish. That is where we fail in all of this. Stop being so fucking selfish. realize that in this life, if you have the opportunity to live above your means, to create something, to do something that brings you fortune, I'm not saying spend it all, but don't hoard it. Provide an opportunity for somebody who's less fortunate, because you never know. You could literally be providing an opportunity for somebody to be the next mogul in something else, but they just need that opportunity. They need that chance. You're going to try to tell me that if somebody said, hey, I can give you $11 million for you by yourself, or I can give you 8, take these 3 and take care of like 8 other people, that you would keep the $3 million to yourself? If your answer to that question is yes, then why are you mad at Activision for doing the same? Because that is literally what just happened. They made all this money, but like I said, they know how to make money. They looked at the forecast and they said, hey, we have so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. If we don't fire these people next year, our returns are going to be less. Or if we fire these people, our returns next year will stay at about the same level, which is not a loss. Not necessarily the gain, but you'll gain like that 1 or 2% that you were probably missing this time around by not having this overhead of 800 people. They chose $11 million. I mean, it's more, like grandiose than that. For the sake of this example, they chose $11 million for themselves. They saw the forecast and they chose to hoard this money for themselves, instead of taking a little chunk of it and helping out the people underneath. So that's why I say, if you were presented with that option to take $11 million for yourself, or $8 million and then take the other 3 and help 8 other people, what would you do? If you say I'll take $11 million because fuck other people, then you have no right or no reason to be angry about any of this, because you're exactly the problem. You're exactly the mentality. You're living that mentality of what causes this pain. If you're willing to take the $8 million and help 8 other people, realize that is cool. That is a great incentive for you to do. But that's too black and white. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be that gray area. There's always going to be that in between. Like, it's not easy, man. But don't go and hurt 2,000 people because 800 got hurt. Don't do that, please. Man, I think that's it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't expect to be talking for 2 hours. I had a lot to say, and it's been like 2 years since I made a video, so it's really kind of like this. So I'm not sure how I got to break this video down. I'm pretty sure I got to break it down into parts. But it's rough. It's a rough time, and my heart goes out to everybody who was affected by the layoffs. I mean, I've been there, and it is one of the most fucking devastating feelings that anybody can kind of encounter, especially if you work your ass off, which I know a majority of the 800 people who got let go do. There's going to be some slackers in there that just kind of pass through the cracks, and again, with any other company. But when you bust your ass, when you're living the dream, and you're like, yeah, this is fantastic, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, sorry, homies, gotta let you go. It is one of the worst feelings you could have in your life, and my heart goes out to all of you. You will land on your feet. there'll be something out there for you. Whether or not that experience is as grandiose as the one you had at Blizzard, I cannot say. I'm still looking for that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be at a big company. It's just, right now it's kind of like journeyman season, But you'll be okay. You'll run through your cycle of shitty jobs, possibly, if you don't find like the next big thing in the next company you're at. But at the end of the day, all the hard work and stuff that you learned at one place always translate very well into your next position, and so on and so forth, until you kind of just become like a fucking beast at what you do. And you'll be okay. It doesn't always seem that way. Sometimes life gets you down, and you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with this shit no more. And then like you just feel so low. And that happened to me, before I actually got the job at Blizzard and other places. Like I was I'd have a job for 2.5 years, like constant 2.5 years. Like I said, a couple temp things here and there, but you fight through it. And somewhere along the line, somebody says, hey. And the opportunity presents itself. And when the opportunity presents itself, you take care of that opportunity. You go out there and do what you do that got that opportunity presented to you in the first place. And you will be fine. Everybody will be fine. A lot of you out there that were affected by this are a lot more traditionally educated than I am. I'll say it again. I am technically a high school dropout, and I have been able to carve out a life for me, for myself and my family, my life. And I was able to do that thanks to Blizzard. A lot of you are college educated. I've ran through a lot of people who are very, very young, hungry, and ambitious, who were able to work at Blizzard and were able to turn that into opportunity somewhere else for a lot more money. I've actually coached people to do that at a Blizzard and told them like, hey, you're making this much here. If you go somewhere else and put in the applications, you can be making at least this much. So far, I'm 3 for 3. Because those people decided to listen, and now they're making a lot more money than I am. And I actually have no ill wills about it, because they do stuff that I don't do to make those opportunities present themselves for them. So why am I going to be angry about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, they know who they are. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of them, maybe one will probably watch this video and he'll be like, damn, you're talking about me? I am talking about you. But everybody, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. The only thing I can say is, look, everybody gets comfortable in the life that they have. Don't do that. Don't do that. That is the worst thing you could fucking do. If you live in the OC and you want to stay living in the don't do that. Don't do that. If you have the ability to broaden your scope and bounce to go somewhere, do that. If that means going to Europe, if that means going to Canada, if that means going to Japan, going to wherever they're willing to hire you for your expertise and you can live a life out there, just go for the experience. Go out there. Don't just like keep yourself contained to like, well, I want to live in the OC for the rest of my life. I want to live in LA County for the rest of my life. Oh, no, man. If you have the ability to bounce. Like that's my 5-year plan, or like 4-year plan, because I'm hoping the kid goes to college. Once he goes to college, man, everything opens up again. I have no plans to stay in California if I can get opportunities somewhere else. Because my kid doesn't want to stay here either. So, but just to kind of give you some scope on that, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not actively looking to get out of California, but that's because the opportunity from myself, my time for that has passed. I have to worry about my son. So I'm here to get him into college. I'm here to do everything that I need to do to get him into college. Once he goes to college, man, the world opens up again. If somehow, some way, I'm able to develop skills in the next 4 years where I get a call from Japan, Korea, anywhere in Europe, Canada, like out of this state, anywhere else, Nevada, Arizona. Maybe Arizona's too damn hot. But like if somebody said, hey, like we've noticed that you've done this, and that, would you be interested in moving down to the great state of whatever, or the great country of whatever, and we'll pay you this much to do this? Would you be? Dude, my kid's in college. Even if my kid's not in college, I don't care. when he's 18, dude, I'm not worried about you no more. You know what I mean? Like at 18, like, look, man, you either need to be in college or you need to find a way to not be in my house anymore, because I am going to take advantage of whatever opportunities come my way, because I will still be young enough to take opportunities. I will be like barely starting my 40s. I would love to have an opportunity to just be somewhere baller in my 40s with my wife. You know what I'm saying? Like if they said, hey, can you and your wife move to Japan? And we'll pay you so-and-so to do. Hey, baby, we're moving to Japan. Even if it's just for a year or two, baby, we're moving to Japan. And she's down, man. She's my road dog. She'd be super down. Like our child will be in college. That's his aspirations. Those are his hopes, to be in college. So we're trying to do everything possible to make sure that he achieves that. And once he achieves that, if he decides to achieve that, because it really is up to him, me and her are gonna live a life that's different. And that's what you have to look forward to. But if you don't have the kid that you have to put first, just keep trucking, keep fighting, keep struggling, keep your head up. Don't get down on yourself. Don't do any of that. Just keep your head up. Just keep your head up. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I know sometimes you keep your head up and all you see is darkness. No. Eventually there'll be a pinpoint of light. You when you see that pinpoint of light, you keep towards it, and something will be waiting for you. And hopefully it's something great. I said this like 10 minutes ago. But yeah, that's going to be it. If you guys have any questions, if you made it through this entire video, thank you so much. It's long. Now, if you have any questions, I will divulge what I can, because again, I'm not going to do what I chewed out and be like, I have insiders that told me this, and I have not doing any of that. I can only talk to you about my personal experiences. I will not drop any names. I will not drop what this is all this has really been how I saw a lot of this shake out, and a lot of my personal feelings towards the reactions. Again, I don't endorse or condone the 800 firings. I think it's a really, really, really shitty thing that was done. And again, I knew a nice amount of people that got personally affected, where I go, man, that person was so cool. Why did this have to happen to them? But yeah, if you have any questions, I'll answer what I can. I don't know when the next video is gonna be. It's been too long, and I just don't have the time. And I mean, I had time today because I'm fighting off a little bit of a cold, so I stayed home. But yeah, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and then and like if you're struggling, man, it doesn't have to be the Blizzard thing. Anything else, just keep fighting, man. Just keep fighting. Keep your head up. Know that you're tougher than you probably give yourself credit for. And if you work hard enough for something, maybe you won't live the most extravagant life, but you'll get a life. And I'm living proof of that. Like I said, I'm technically a high school dropout. And I live a pretty okay life. I got to experience a lot, been able to take a lot of opportunities, and got to meet a lot of amazing people in this whole process, in this whole progress. So, and these are moments that, I wouldn't trade for the world. If you told me, hey, you want to go back in time and get a college education and see, that's cool. I'm all right. I'll keep on doing with the life that I carved out for myself now, and we'll go from there. But thank you guys so much for watching. I don't know when I'll see you guys next time, but whenever that next time is, it's been Mr. KB, and I'll see you guys next time.